The recording started with static, then cleared to show a massive crystalline platform floating in the void of space. Stars twinkled in the background like scattered diamonds against black velvet. The platform belonged to the Galactic Enforcement Council, a structure so large it could house entire cities. Its transparent walls gleamed with an otherworldly blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Commander Zektar of the Vorthak Empire stood at the center of the platform, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His exoskeleton gleamed purple-black under the artificial lights. Around him, representatives from 12 different species watched in silence. The crystalline hierarchy sent their finest diplomat, a being made of living glass, who refracted light into rainbow patterns. The Hive Collective's representative buzzed softly, its insect-like features twitching with anticipation. Even the mysterious shadow dwellers had emerged from their dark realms to witness this moment. Citizens of the galaxy. Zektar's voice boomed through the transmission that was being broadcast to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in known space. Today we deliver justice for the crimes committed by humanity. The camera panned to show a simple wooden gallows that looked completely out of place on the advanced alien platform. It was crude, primitive, built from earth oak that had been specially imported for this occasion. The symbolism was clear and brutal. Humanity would be judged by their own barbaric standards. Sergeant Marcus Chen stood beneath the noose, his hands bound behind his back. He wore the standard-issue gray uniform of the Human Colonial Defense Force, though it was now torn and stained. His left eye was swollen shut from the beating he'd received during interrogation. Blood had dried at the corner of his mouth. But he stood straight, shoulders back, chin raised in defiance. Chen was 24 years old, born on New Shanghai Colony. He had enlisted at 18, driven by stories his grandfather told him about the old Earth Wars. His file showed commendations for bravery, leadership under fire, and an unwavering dedication to protecting human civilians. Now, he stood as the first human ever to be executed by the Galactic Enforcement Council. The human, known as Marcus Chen, Zektar continued, stands convicted of war crimes against the Zephyrian people. On the colony world of Kepler 442b, this savage led an unprovoked attack against peaceful Zephyrian settlers, resulting in the deaths of over 300 innocent civilians. The recording showed images of the devastated Zephyrian settlement. Organic spires lay in ruins, their bioluminescent surfaces dark and dead. Bodies of the tall, graceful Zephyrians were scattered among the wreckage. They had been a peaceful species, evolved from plant-like organisms, capable of photosynthesis and possessing a deep connection to all living things. What the recording didn't show was the human colony ship that had been attacked first. The Zephyrians had claimed the world belonged to them, despite humans arriving there 2 years earlier. When diplomatic talks failed, the Zephyrians had released a biological weapon into the human settlement's water supply. Chen had watched his fellow colonists die slowly, their bodies rejecting the alien toxins. Children had been the first to succumb, their small forms unable to fight off the poison. Chen had led the survivors in a desperate counterattack. They had no choice but to fight with everything they had. The human survivors numbered only 57 when the Galactic Enforcement Council arrived to investigate the incident. By then, the Zephyrian fleet had removed all evidence of their initial attack. The Galactic Enforcement Council, Zektar announced, has tried this criminal according to our highest standards of justice. The evidence of human savagery is undeniable. Therefore, we sentence this representative of humanity to death as a warning to his species that such barbarism will not be tolerated in civilized space. Chen looked directly into the camera. Despite his injuries, his voice was steady and strong. My name is Sergeant Marcus Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. I stand here not as a criminal, but as a protector of my people. The galaxy will remember this injustice. Humanity will remember. 8. The executioner was a mechanoid, a species that had replaced their biological forms with cold steel and circuitry centuries ago. It approached the gallows with mechanical precision, each step calculated and emotionless. The noose was placed around Chen's neck with clinical efficiency. "Any final words, human?" Zektar asked, though his tone suggested he cared little for the answer. Chen smiled, blood staining his teeth. "Yeah. Tell the galaxy that humans don't forget. Tell them we're coming." The platform fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the station's systems seemed to pause. Chen's words hung in the vacuum like a promise and a threat combined into one simple statement. Zektar gestured to the executioner. The mechanoid pulled the lever. Zektar gestured too. The trapdoor opened with a sharp crack that echoed across the platform. Chen's body dropped, the rope snapping taut. His neck broke instantly. At least the Galactic Enforcement Council had allowed him that mercy. His body swayed gently in the artificial gravity field. The camera held on the image for a full minute. Representatives from across the galaxy watched in satisfaction. Finally, they had made their point clear to the upstart humans. This primitive species would learn their place in the cosmic order. "Let this be a lesson," Zektar declared, "to any who would challenge the peace and order of our great civilization. The law applies to all, and justice will be served." The transmission ended, but the recording was already spreading across the galactic networks. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 homes, beings gathered around their viewing screens to watch the first and final execution of a human by galactic authority. They nodded in approval, satisfied that order had been maintained. They couldn't have known that every human settlement, every human ship, every human station was also receiving the broadcast. They couldn't have known that in military barracks across human space, soldiers were clenching their fists in rage. They couldn't have known that in government buildings on Earth, emergency sessions were being called. Most importantly, they couldn't have known about the sealed orders that had been distributed to every human military commander just hours before Chen's execution. Orders that had been prepared for exactly this scenario, written by minds that had studied every major conflict in human history and understood something fundamental about the human spirit. Admiral Sarah Reyes sat in her command chair aboard the UES Normandy, humanity's newest and most advanced dreadnought. The ship hung in space at the edge of the Sol system, its dark hull bristling with weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Around her, the bridge crew worked in grim silence. They had all watched the execution. "Communications," Admiral Reyes said quietly. "Open a channel to all human vessels and installations." The communications officer's hands trembled slightly as she worked her console. "Channel open." "Admiral." Reyes stood, her gray hair catching the light from the tactical displays. She had served in the Human Colonial Defense Force for 37 years, rising through the ranks during humanity's expansion into the galaxy. She had fought pirates, explored uncharted systems, and negotiated with alien species. She had always believed in finding peaceful solutions. That belief died with Marcus Chen. "To all human forces, all colonial governments, and all citizens of the Terran Federation," she began, her voice carrying across space to reach every human ear in the galaxy. "Today we witness the execution of Sergeant Marcus Chen, a good soldier who died defending human lives. The Galactic Enforcement Council has made their position clear. They see us as savages to be controlled, primitives to be managed." She paused, looking out at the stars through the bridge's main viewport. Somewhere out there, Chen's body still hung from that alien gallows. "They have forgotten something important about humans," she continued. "We have a long memory for injustice, and we have an even longer tradition of making those who wrong us regret their choices." Her hand moved to the sealed packet on her command chair, the orders she had hoped never to open. The wax seal bore the symbol of the Terran Federation and the words, "Protocol Omega." As of this moment, the Terran Federation is implementing Protocol Omega. All human forces are to consider themselves at war with the Galactic Enforcement Council and any species that supports their authority. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. We tried to find our place in their galaxy. Admiral Reyes broke the seal and removed the single sheet of paper inside. At the top, in bold letters, were the words that would change everything. When they hang one of ours, hang them all. They want to see human savagery? She asked, her voice now carrying across the galaxy on every human frequency. They're about to learn why every predator on Earth learned to fear us. They're about to discover why we conquered our own world before we reached for the stars. She crushed the paper in her fist. Protocol Omega is now active. God help us all. Activin. Active. The transmission ended, but the message was already spreading through human space like wildfire. In hidden shipyards beyond the galaxy's edge, massive vessels began powering up systems that had been kept in reserve. On secret research stations, weapons that violated a dozen galactic treaties were loaded into cargo holds. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They had seen humanity at peace, had watched them try to integrate into galactic society. They had mistaken human patience for weakness, human diplomacy for cowardice. They had forgotten that humans were the apex predators of Earth, that they had clawed their way to the top of the food chain through violence and cunning. They had forgotten that every human carried the genetic memory of 10,000 years of warfare. Most critically, they had forgotten the most important rule of dealing with humans. If you want to kill one, you had better kill them all, because the survivors will come for you with a fury that will shake the very foundations of space and time. The galaxy was about to remember why Earth had been called the Death World, and why its children had inherited more than just the stars. The first sign that something had changed came 3 days after Chen's execution. Long-range sensors across the galaxy began detecting massive energy signatures moving through hyperspace. The readings were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Too large to be conventional ships, too fast to be space stations, too powerful to be anything previously encountered from human space. On the Zephyrian homeworld of Verdania, High Chancellor Melos received the first reports while tending to his sacred grove. The tall, willowy leader of the plant-based species was connected to a network of bioluminescent trees that served as both his government building and his link to the planetary consciousness. The trees began glowing with urgent patterns of red and amber. "High Chancellor," his aide whispered, approaching through the organic corridors with obvious distress. "Our deep space monitoring stations have gone silent. All 12 of them." Melos disconnected from the tree network, his green-tinted skin pale with worry. "Define. Gone silent. Advisor Cyan. Complete communication loss, sir." The last transmission from Station Kepler showed massive energy readings approaching their position. Then, nothing. The High Chancellor's roots, which normally remained buried in the rich soil of his office, began retracting in an unconscious display of fear. His species had evolved from aggressive plant life on a world where survival meant being able to uproot and flee from forest fires. The instinct to run was deeply embedded in their nature. "Have you contacted the Galactic Enforcement Council?" "We tried, sir. Their main station isn't responding either." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The Insectoid Hive Collective had lost contact with 3 border worlds. The crystalline hierarchy found their normally perfect quantum communications network disrupted by unknown interference. Even the technologically advanced mechanoids were experiencing system failures that their logical minds couldn't explain. Commander Zektar stood in the center of the Galactic Enforcement Council's main station, the same crystalline platform where Chen had been executed. But now the structure shuddered with each passing moment, its bioluminescent walls flickering between blue and red. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the massive facility. "Report!" Zektar barked at his communications officer, a multi-tentacled being from the aquatic depths of Abyssos. "Sir, we've lost contact with 67% of our monitoring stations. Long-range sensors show massive objects approaching from human space. Initial readings suggest..." "Sir, this can't be right. Tell me anyway." The tentacled being's appendages quivered as it manipulated the holographic displays. "The largest object is approximately 40 kilometers long. Its mass readings suggest it's entirely solid metal and ceramic composites. Energy output is beyond our measurement capabilities. Zektar felt his exoskeleton tighten involuntarily. In his 2 centuries of military service, he had never encountered a vessel larger than 8 kilometers. The idea of something 40 kilometers long defied everything he knew about space combat and engineering. How many objects total? We've identified 17 separate massive signatures, sir, plus smaller escort vessels numbering in the thousands. The truth was even more terrifying than the sensor readings suggested. Humanity had spent the last 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. While they participated in galactic diplomacy and trade, their best engineers and scientists had been working in secret facilities beyond the galaxy's edge. Project Longbow had been designed to create weapons that would make alien technology obsolete. Project Hammer had focused on defensive systems that could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. Project Sword had been the development of ships so large and powerful that they would redefine space warfare itself. The UES Retribution was the crown jewel of Project Sword. 43 kilometers of hardened titanium steel alloy wrapped around fusion reactors that could power entire star systems. Its main weapon was a gravitational cannon that could literally pull enemy ships apart at the molecular level. Its armor could withstand the direct impact of a nuclear warhead without showing a scratch. But the Retribution wasn't alone. 16 sister ships had been constructed in the hidden shipyards of the Oort cloud. Each one represented the pinnacle of human engineering, built with one purpose: to demonstrate to the galaxy that humans were not to be trifled with. Admiral Marcus Thompson stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display show the approaching Galactic Enforcement Council station. Thompson was Chen's uncle, a career military officer who had helped raise the boy after his parents died in a mining accident. He had watched the execution broadcast with his nephew's Medal of Honor clutched in his weathered hands. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "we're within range of the station. All weapons systems are charged and ready." Thompson nodded slowly. Around him, the bridge crew worked with the cold efficiency that came from months of simulation and preparation. They had drilled for this moment, studied every possible scenario. They knew what they had to do. "Open a channel to the station," Thompson ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Zektar surrounded by his staff. The alien's 4 arms were spread wide in what his species considered a gesture of peaceful negotiation. "Human vessel," Zektar began. "I am Commander Zektar of the Galactic Enforcement Council. You are approaching Council space without authorization. Please state your intentions." Thompson stepped forward, his scarred face hard as granite. "My intentions are simple, Commander. I'm here to collect the body of Sergeant Marcus Chen, the executed criminal. I'm afraid that's not possible. The body has already been disposed of, according to Council regulations." A muscle in Thompson's jaw twitched. "Then I'm here to collect payment for his murder." "Murder?" Zektar's exoskeleton bristled with indignation. That human was lawfully executed for war crimes against the Zephyrian people. Those war crimes were defending human civilians from a biological weapons attack. The Zephyrians attacked first, used illegal toxins against children. Chen and his people fought back in self-defense. The Council investigated thoroughly. No evidence of Zephyrian aggression was found. Thompson smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "Of course not. You destroyed all the evidence before your investigation began." Convenient. The bridge of the Retribution hummed with barely contained energy. Every system was running at peak efficiency. Every weapon was locked onto target. The ship's artificial intelligence, nicknamed Atlas, had already calculated 17 different attack patterns that would reduce the Council station to debris in under 90 seconds. "Human," Zektar said, trying to project authority he no longer felt. "You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences. This station is protected by the combined might of the Galactic Enforcement Council. You are one ship against the power of 12 species." Thompson looked at his tactical officer, who nodded almost imperceptibly. The other 16 dreadnoughts had just dropped out of hyperspace, forming a perfect sphere around the Council station. Each ship was a monument to human engineering and determination. Together, they represented more firepower than the Council had ever seen in one place. "One ship?" Thompson asked. "Atlas, please educate the commander about our current force deployment." The artificial intelligence's voice filled the bridge, its tone perfectly calm and professional. "Certainly, Admiral. Current human force deployment consists of 17 Genesis-class dreadnoughts, 47 Nemesis-class heavy cruisers, 132 Raptor-class destroyers, and 396 Falcon-class fighters. Total crew complement: 1,700,000 personnel." The color drained from Zektar's exoskeleton. His species had excellent mathematical abilities, and he quickly calculated the implications of those numbers. The entire Galactic Enforcement Council fleet numbered roughly 800 ships of various sizes. The humans had just deployed a force 3 times larger than anything the Council had ever assembled. Furthermore, Atlas continued, "I should note that this represents approximately 12% of total human naval capability currently deployed in galactic space." Thompson watched Zektar's face go through what humans would recognize as the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. It took the alien commander exactly 47 seconds to reach the final stage. What do you want?" Zektar whispered. "I want you to understand something fundamental about humans," Thompson replied. "We don't forgive. We don't forget. And we sure as hell don't let the murder of our people go unanswered." The tactical display showed the massive human fleet spreading out across the surrounding space. More ships were arriving every minute, dropping out of hyperspace with the precision of a well-orchestrated symphony. Humans had been planning this moment for decades, and every detail had been calculated down to the second. "You see, Commander," Thompson continued, "you made a critical error in judgment. You thought executing one of ours would send a message to humanity. Make us fall in line. Accept our place as junior members of your galactic community." He gestured to the tactical display showing the surrounding human fleet. "Instead, you've awakened something that your species, and every other species in this galaxy, seems to have forgotten. Humans are predators. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, and our own worst instincts." Thompson's voice grew colder with each word. "Most importantly, we survived by learning one simple lesson. When something threatens the pack, the entire pack responds. You didn't execute a criminal, Commander. You declared war on humanity." The silence on both bridges stretched for long moments. Thompson looked at the chronometer on his wrist. Now, you have exactly 1 hour to evacuate this station and every Council facility within 50 light-years. After that, we begin demonstrating why humans have never lost a war. But the Council represents 12 species. You cannot hope to fight all of us." Thompson's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. "Commander, in the past 72 hours, the Terran Federation has received formal alliance offers from 18 species that your Council has been oppressing for centuries. It seems we're not the only ones tired of your particular brand of justice." The truth was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. The execution of Marcus Chen had done more than anger humanity. It had shown every oppressed species, every subjugated world, every conquered people that the Galactic Enforcement Council could be challenged. The Council's carefully maintained image of invincibility had shattered the moment they felt the need to make an example of a single human soldier. "You have 59 minutes, Commander," Thompson said as he terminated the communication. Across the galaxy, the awakening was beginning. Humanity had shown their hand, revealed the power they had been building in secret for half a century. But more importantly, they had shown every other species that resistance was possible. The Council had hanged one human to maintain order. Instead, they had started a revolution that would reshape the galaxy forever. The evacuation of the Galactic Enforcement Council station took 43 minutes. Admiral Thompson watched through the bridge viewports as thousands of small craft fled the crystalline structure, like insects escaping a disturbed hive. His chronometer showed 17 minutes remaining in the ultimatum when the last Council transport cleared the minimum safe distance. "All Council vessels have withdrawn, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "Station appears to be completely evacuated." Thompson nodded and turned to his communications officer. "Signal the fleet. Execute Operation Gravestone." Across human space, the phrase Operation Gravestone had become synonymous with total warfare. It was the culmination of 50 years of careful planning, representing humanity's answer to the question, how do you fight an entire galaxy and win? The answer was simple and terrible. You make the galaxy afraid to fight you. The UES Retribution fired first. Its gravitational cannon charged with the power of a small star, creating a localized distortion in space-time that reached out across the void like an invisible hand. When the beam struck the Council station, reality itself seemed to bend and twist around the impact point. The crystalline structure, designed to withstand meteor impacts and enemy fire, began to come apart at the molecular level. The gravitational forces tore apart the bonds that held matter together, unraveling the station's very atoms. In less than 30 seconds, the massive facility that had housed the Galactic government's military command simply ceased to exist. Where once a symbol of galactic authority had stood, now there was only empty space and scattered particles drifting in the cosmic wind. But Operation Gravestone was just beginning. Across the galaxy, human fleets emerged from hyperspace at every major Council facility. The Kepler Defense Grid, a network of armed platforms that protected the Council's core worlds, found itself facing the UES Vengeance and her sister ships. The platform's energy shields, considered impenetrable by galactic standards, lasted exactly 13 seconds against human plasma cannons that operated on principles the Council's scientists had declared impossible. The Vorthak Empire's home fleet, considered the most powerful military force outside of Earth, engaged the human fleet at the Battle of Proxima Centauri B. Admiral Zektar himself led the defense from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that had never known defeat in 3 centuries of warfare. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When the Vorthak flagship's wreckage finally stopped burning, Admiral Thompson's voice echoed across every communication channel in the galaxy. His message was simple, clear, and terrifying in its implications. To every species, every government, every individual who supported the execution of Sergeant Marcus Chen, you have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. After that, we stop being reasonable. The galactic response was swift and chaotic. Some species immediately began transmitting surrender offers. Others, like the proud crystalline hierarchy, attempted to form defensive alliances. The mechanoids simply calculated the odds of victory and concluded that resistance was mathematically impossible. But the Zephyrians, the species whose false claims had led to Chen's execution, chose a different path. High Chancellor Melos, speaking from his homeworld, broadcast a message that would be remembered as the most catastrophic political decision in galactic history. The Zephyrian people will never bow to human tyranny, he declared, his plant-like features rigid with determination. If these savages want war, we will give them such a war that they will regret ever leaving their primitive world. The transmission ended with images of the Zephyrian fleet mobilizing around their homeworld. Bioships grown rather than built, living vessels that could adapt and evolve in real time during combat. It was an impressive sight. Nearly 3,000 ships forming defensive patterns around the most beautiful world in the known galaxy. Admiral Sarah Reyes, commanding the human response from the UES Normandy, received the Zephyrian Declaration while reviewing tactical reports from across the galaxy. Her flagship hung at the edge of the Zephyrian system, accompanied by only a dozen escort vessels. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "Zephyrian fleet deployment is complete. They've arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around their homeworld. Estimate 3,200 vessels total. Endway. Reyes studied the tactical display with the cold calculation that had made her one of humanity's finest military minds. The Zephyrian defensive formation was textbook perfect, utilizing their ship's biological adaptability to create overlapping fields of fire that would devastate any conventional assault. Too bad humans didn't believe in conventional warfare. Open a channel to the Zephyrian leadership, Reyes ordered. High Chancellor Melos appeared on the main screen, flanked by his military advisors. Behind him, the sacred groves of Verdania swayed in an artificial breeze, their bioluminescent leaves casting rainbow patterns across his green-tinted skin. "Human Admiral," Melos said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been challenged. "Have you come to witness the destruction of your pathetic fleet? Our bioships will adapt to any weapon you possess. Our world's defenses have stood for 10,000 years. You cannot hope to break us." Reyes smiled, and something in that expression made the Zephyrian leader's leaves rustle with sudden unease. "High Chancellor," she said calmly, "I've spent the last week reviewing the files from the Kepler 442b incident. Interesting reading. Did you know that your people developed 73 different biological weapons specifically designed to target human physiology? Toxins that attack human DNA, viruses that destroy human immune systems, bacteria that literally digest human tissue from the inside out. If B, 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 if B, B, F, B." Melos's skin paled to a sickly yellow-green. "Those weapons were developed for defensive purposes only." "Defensive?" Reyes laughed, but the sound held no humor. "You deployed them against children, Chancellor. Human children who were guilty of nothing more than being born on a world you decided to claim." The bridge of the Normandy hummed with barely contained energy as systems powered up to their maximum capacity. Every human ship in the system began broadcasting on the same frequency, their signals synchronized to the microsecond. "You want to know something interesting about humans, Chancellor? We're remarkably creative when it comes to warfare. Take our current situation. For example, your bioships can adapt to any conventional weapon. They can evolve defenses against energy beams, kinetic projectiles, even nuclear warheads." Reyes gestured to her tactical officer, who nodded grimly. "But evolution requires time, Chancellor. And time is something your ships no longer have." Every human vessel in the system fired simultaneously, but not at the Zephyrian fleet. Instead, their weapons targeted seemingly empty space around the fleet's formation. Specialized warheads detonated in precise patterns, releasing clouds of what appeared to be harmless metallic dust. "What is this?" Melos demanded, watching the spreading clouds on his tactical displays. "Some primitive chemical weapon?" "Not chemical, Chancellor. Biological." Reyes's smile was sharp enough to cut through steel. "You see, while your people were developing weapons to kill humans, our scientists were studying your bioships, learning how they grow, how they adapt, how they live." The first Zephyrian ship began to shudder as the metallic clouds reached its hull. The living vessel's bioluminescent patterns flickered and dimmed as something began attacking its cellular structure from the inside out. "Those particles you're looking at are synthetic viruses, Chancellor, designed specifically to target the biomatrix that your ships use for hulls. The beautiful thing about viruses is that they spread fast. Within minutes, the infection was jumping from ship to ship through the Zephyrian fleet's own biological communication networks. Vessels that had stood proudly in defense of their homeworld began dying, their living hulls dissolving like tissue paper in acid. "You used biological weapons against our children," Reyes said, her voice carrying across the dying fleet. "So, we created biological weapons specifically for you. The difference is, ours actually work." High Chancellor Melos watched his mighty fleet disintegrate before his eyes. Ships that had taken decades to grow died in minutes, their crew compartments venting atmosphere as their hulls simply ceased to exist. 3,000 vessels became 2,000, then 1,000, then hundreds. "Stop this," he screamed. We surrender unconditionally." "Too late for that, Chancellor," Reyes replied. You had your chance to surrender. You chose to threaten humanity instead. The last Zephyrian ship died 17 minutes after the first, where once a mighty fleet had guarded the most beautiful world in the galaxy. Now there was only debris and the spreading cloud of synthetic viruses that had consumed them. Now, Reyes continued, her voice echoing across every communication channel on the planet below. Let's discuss the terms of your species' continued existence. Quote, the Zephyrian homeworld's orbital defense platforms tried to fire on the human ships, but their biomechanical components suffered the same fate as the fleet. One by one, the great defensive installations that had protected Verdania for millennia simply melted away like ice in a furnace. Terms? Melos whispered, his voice barely audible over the sounds of panic echoing through his command center. Every member of your government who supported the false charges against Sergeant Chen will be turned over to human authorities for trial. Your entire military command structure will be dissolved. Your world will be placed under human administration until we're satisfied you've learned to coexist peacefully with other species. Reyes paused, letting the weight of her words sink in across the galaxy. Most importantly, you will use your biological expertise to develop medical treatments for the human civilians your weapons poisoned on Kepler 442b. The survivors are still suffering from the toxins you released. You will cure them, or your species will suffer the same fate as your fleet. The silence stretched across space as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated a level of warfare that made traditional concepts of military power obsolete. They had shown the galaxy that human creativity, human determination, and human memory combine to create something more dangerous than any conventional weapon. Across the galaxy, the remaining Council forces began surrendering en masse. Species that had supported Chen's execution sent frantic diplomatic communications, offering tribute, alliance, anything that might spare them the fate of the Zephyrians. But Admiral Reyes had one more message for the galaxy. To every species, every government, every individual listening to this broadcast, remember the name Marcus Chen. Remember that he died defending human children from biological weapons. Remember that justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice with interest. She gestured to her communications officer to open a galaxy-wide channel. The Terran Federation hereby announces the formation of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. Any species suffering under the oppression of the old Council system is welcome to join us in building a galaxy based on justice rather than political convenience. Within hours, the communications networks were flooded with requests for membership. Species that had been subjugated for centuries saw their chance for freedom. Oppressed colonies declared independence. The careful political balance that had maintained galactic order for millennia crumbled in a single day. Commander Zektar, watching the collapse of everything he had spent his life defending, sent one final transmission from his escape pod as it drifted among the wreckage of the Council's authority. How? He asked simply. How did you plan all this? How did you know we would execute your soldier? Admiral Thompson's response was broadcast across every human channel in the galaxy, ensuring that the lesson would never be forgotten. We didn't plan for you to execute Chen specifically, Commander. We planned for the inevitability that someone, somewhere, would eventually decide that human lives were expendable. We've been preparing for this moment since the day we first left Earth. Thompson's image appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, his weathered face bearing the scars of a lifetime spent protecting humanity. You see, the galaxy made a fundamental error in understanding humans. You saw our diplomacy and mistook it for weakness. You saw our patience and thought it was submission. You saw our desire for peace and assumed we had forgotten how to wage war. He gestured to the massive fleet surrounding him, each ship a testament to human engineering and determination. We never forgot, Commander. We just hoped we'd never have to remember. The transmission ended, but its impact would resonate across the galaxy for generations. The old order was dead, executed as surely as Marcus Chen had been. In its place, something new was being born. A galaxy where justice mattered more than politics, where the strong protected the weak instead of exploiting them. The Galactic Liberation Alliance grew rapidly as oppressed species flocked to join humanity's cause. Within a year, the old council's authority existed only in history books. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans might be patient. Humans might prefer diplomacy. But humans never, ever forgot an injustice. And they always made those responsible pay the price. On a small monument erected in Earth's orbital space, a simple plaque bore the name Marcus Chen, and a single line of text that would become humanity's motto as they reshaped the galaxy. When they hang one of ours, hang them all. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if approving of the justice that had finally been served.